Does content often feel like a bit of a one sided conversation? Like you're showing up, you're sharing, you're doing all the things, ticking the boxes, but it's still not quite landing? Or perhaps even worse still, you feel like you're talking to the wrong people entirely. And you know what? It can happen, especially as you or your business shifts and evolves. So, in today's episode, I want to help you change that. Because when you truly know who you're speaking to, your content starts to feel so much lighter, so much more grounded, and honestly more like you. This episode is not about teaching you how to be louder or more polished to stand out. It's about being more intentional with who you're speaking to and how you're speaking to them. Welcome to the Powerful Content Podcast, your go to source for content creation, strategy, and business inspiration. I'm your host, Mel Daniels, content strategist, coach, and speaker, empowering women across the globe to grow their business with powerful content that connects, nurtures, and converts. So, if you're ready to create standout content that gets you noticed and remembered, or build an aligned audience who love you and are ready to buy from you, you're in the right place. I believe that content has the power to connect us all. It's up to you how you use it. Listen in for genuine and insightful chats with guests, as well as practical tools and strategies from me. It's so lovely to have you here. Let's dive into the show. I acknowledge the Wongal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the country that I am recording from today. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nation people listening today. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 179 of the Powerful Content Podcast. It is so lovely to be in your ears today. I hope you've been well. This week, I thought I'd go back to some foundational content marketing, as I've been hearing a lot in my communities about how difficult it feels at the moment to find the right people, whether it's an existing business, a new business, or whether someone's starting to play on a new platform. And I think that part of our problem is our propensity to create this kind of bland default content that tries to please the algorithm gods, rather than tuning into what you truly love to create and what your audience needs to hear. Now, another part of the problem is listening to way too many experts. And you can go back to the previous episode 178 to find out more about how to choose who to listen to. But when we forget to filter out all of that noise, it just gets kind of messy and complicated for us to figure out what to focus on and why. And then lastly, thinking that we need to be everywhere just in case our ideal client happens to be lurking in that corner or that space of the online world puts an incredible amount of pressure on us, I think, to perform and become content machines, neither of which I truly want for you, might I add. So before I dive into the meaty part of this episode, I wanted to take a moment to define an audience, a niche, and an ideal client, because they are ever so slightly different, and understanding that difference is going to help you create the right content to attract the right people. So an audience, this is the broadest group of people that you're speaking to. You can think of it as your listeners, your followers, your subscribers, or anyone who's consuming your content. They may be curious about what you do, but they're not all the right fit for you right now. Your audience includes people at different stages of the client journey, and some may never actually buy from you at all. And do you know what? That's okay, because they can still refer people to you as they have connected with you. And you, my beautiful listener, are part of my audience. So lovely to have you here. A niche. Let's talk about niches. Your niche is that area or the category of work that you do. It's what you're known for and where you position yourself in that industry. So it often answers the question, what problem do I solve and for whom? So for example, for me, it might be something as simple as content strategy and creation for heart-led entrepreneurs. So it is a subset of your audience and more about you than it is about them. And then lastly, your ideal client. Now, this is the specific person within your audience that you most want to help. And They are the one that you create content for, the one who your offers are designed for. And you understand their values, their challenges, their desires, their fears, hopefully, and your message will speak directly to them. So they're not just a buyer, they're this kind of client that you love working with and who gets great results from what you offer. And quite frankly, I'm hoping that's you. Now, I heard this analogy once and I can't remember where I heard it, so I can't credit the beautiful person I heard it from, but I think it explains the differences between audience, niche, and ideal client really well. So think of your business as a concert. Your audience is everyone in the crowd that you're playing to. Your niche is the genre or type of music that you play. And then your ideal client, and I like this bit, the ideal client is the person who's in the front row singing along to every word because your lyrics speak straight to their soul. So knowing the difference between these three things is really important when you're creating content. Now, one of my core messages when it comes to content is to know yourself before you dive into your ideal client. And if you want to know more about messaging and core beliefs, then please go ahead and grab a copy of my book, The Power of Content. I'll pop the link in the show notes to where you can get a copy. But once you've nailed that first step, it's all about who you're talking to. Because let's face it, if we're not talking at all, then we're not going to be making any money. So knowing your ideal client is something that can often be put into the too hard basket, or I'll do it later basket, or worse still, I know who it is in my head basket. But if you don't know who you're speaking to, it's almost impossible, I think, to create content that connects and then converts. You'll end up second guessing your message, feeling unsure of what to say, and kind of bouncing between content styles and platforms because you're trying to speak to everyone and not doing any of it very well. So when creating content, I always recommend creating it with your ideal client in mind, that particular person, not your entire audience, because it's that specificity that makes the difference. There are parts of your content that will sometimes resonate with other parts of your audience, and there are times when your beautifully, cleverly crafted ideal client avatar doesn't represent the people who come to work with you. And both of those situations are fine. But it's when you do know your ideal client on that deeper level, a few things happen. Firstly, you start creating with more clarity and ease. Secondly, your content sounds more consistent and aligned. And thirdly, you end up building trust faster because your audience feels like you get them, which also happens to be the topic of the training this month inside the Content Effect. But trust is everything. It's what turns your followers into buyers, your lurkers into clients, and browsers into fans. Okay, so now you know why it's important to know your ideal client, and you hear other marketers bang on about it all the time, I'm sure. How do you do it? And do it in a way that feels easy, not like you're pulling teeth. Because let's face it, completing an ideal client avatar, workbook, or worksheet would have to be one of the most laborious tasks in our business. Would you agree? Well, truly knowing your ideal client goes beyond demographics. It's about what they believe, what they fear, crave, and also, interestingly, what they avoid. When you stick to those ideal client avatar workbooks that really focus on just the demographics, you end up with a description like, I work with women aged 30 to 50 who want to grow their business. And do you know what? That tells you nothing about how to truly connect with her. And given that's the first step in the client journey, it's pretty important to be able to connect with them. Instead, I would love for you to get curious. What's keeping them up at night? What do they believe about themselves? And what do they wish someone would say to them? I want you to think of your ideal client avatar as a real person, not a profile in a Google Doc, a real human with dreams, with doubts, with quirks, and with questions. So spend some time listening, check your DMs, revisit client conversations, look at testimonials, look at your feedback, and you'll start to hear the emotional thread that ties it all together. And if you need help digging into this, I've got a free workbook that goes beyond the demographics, and it's called the Unboring Ideal Client Avatar that helps you connect with your ideal client on a deeper and, quite frankly, more fun level. But one of the most powerful ways to understand more about your ideal client is to Speak to them. Can you believe it? Happy to past clients that you've loved working with, or listen to what your dream clients are saying in their conversations for clues. Because the more you understand their lived experience, the easier it becomes to create content that speaks with them, not at them. An important difference. Right. So let's get to the juicy bit. Now we know them, how do we create content that speaks to our broader audience and more specifically, our ideal client? Well, firstly, this is not a formula. It's not a step-by-step guide that you have to follow. This is about understanding the drivers, how content works, and using the balance of heart and strategy, because this is where content becomes both purpose-driven and profit-focused. We don't want to just create content that captures our ideal client's attention. We want to create content that moves them into action through that client journey with us. Now, I've spoken about the client journey in many different episodes, but in essence, this is the way to create content that speaks to your ideal client. Being able to articulate what they are thinking, feeling, and doing at each stage of connect, subscribe, nurture, and convert begins to create the resonance that goes deeper at each stage until they're ready to buy from you. And the key is to map your content to where they are mentally and emotionally. So things that you can ask yourself are, what are they struggling with? What do they want but maybe can't articulate? And how can I meet them where they are and then lead them to what they need? Now, I'm going to give you an example of what I may do here so you can apply it to your own business. I know that you're feeling confused and defeated by all the expert advice out there. And hint, this is one of the reasons why I created the last episode 178, how to choose the right content expert to listen to. And at the connect stage, that very first stage, you don't need another checklist or plan. You don't need to be told what to do. You just need to hear that you're not a failure and that there is another way to create content that's more in tune with who you are. Now, that might sound something like, I know you've tried all the advice and it's still not working. That's not a you problem, and it definitely doesn't mean you should give up on content altogether. So then after that, I'll introduce my content creator archetype quiz at the subscribe stage so that you can see firsthand that everyone creates content differently, and that's okay. Then as you move closer towards conversion, my message shifts to something like, now you're ready to create content that finally feels like you. Let's build a strategy that works with your energy and strengths, not against it. And then position the content effect, my membership, as the solution. So can you see that I'm meeting you where you are with my content? In the beginning, you feel fed up, sick of searching for the solution and listening to too much advice, and then leading you to what you need, a supportive membership with all the resources to help you work with your strengths rather than try and push against them. It's such a subtle shift, and it will help you create content that moves your ideal client along because you truly know them and you can empathize with them. And that actually brings me to my next point. The greatest advantage that you have in creating content that speaks to your audience is empathy. As a heart-led person, it is your superpower, so please use it. It's what helps your audience feel seen, heard, and safe. Because when you share content that acknowledges their emotions and not just the problem, you build trust. Your audience doesn't want to be fixed. Think about yourself. You don't want to be fixed. You want to feel understood. And I know that I've mentioned this before, but I want my clients to come to work with me with hope that things can be different, not desperation because that they think they're broken. So instead of jumping straight into advice, maybe start with reflection and use your superpower of empathy. So instead of me saying something like, here's how to fix your content strategy, do these 3 things, I might say, I know that you've been trying to be consistent, but everything you've learned feels overwhelming and unachievable. It's a different way to guide your ideal client through that client journey with you rather than pushing them through it. It's that pause, that moment of acknowledgement. That's what they need. That's what builds trust. But at the end of the day, after all the focus on your audience and ideal client, what I really want for you is to view content as this beautiful, living, evolving thing. This is not about getting it perfect, getting it right the first time. It's about staying open to refinement. And you know what? You can't refine something that you don't even put out into the world. So if something didn't land with your audience or move your ideal client into action, it's not failure, it's simply data. Okay, so before you dive into your next piece of content, I want you to take a moment to reflect. Let this become a conversation with yourself first. Here are 3 questions that you might like to journal on or just ponder while walking the dog or folding the laundry, and whatever you're doing whilst you're listening to this podcast. The first question is, what do I want my ideal client to feel when they consume my content? Number 2 is, when have I felt the most connected to my audience and what kind of content was I creating? And number 3 is, where am I holding back from truly speaking to them and how could I show up differently? Attracting the right audience isn't about doing more, creating more, even following a proven formula. It's about tuning in and creating from that place of alignment and service. So if you want to start attracting your ideal client with content that feels natural, true to you, and actually gets results, the best place to start is by truly understanding who you're speaking to. And I've made that super easy for you. If you haven't already, go ahead and download the Unboring Ideal Client Avatar Workbook. It's free and designed to help you go beyond that surface level demographics and into meaningful connection in a more fun and a very different way. Just download it and you'll see. Or if you're ready to take this work deeper, then come and join me inside the Content Effect. We're all about powerful, purpose-driven content that connects, nurtures, and converts. All the links that you need are in the show notes. Remember, you do not have to attract everyone. You just need to connect with the right people. Talk soon. Thanks so much for listening. That's it for another week. To get more powerful content in your life, make sure you're following along on socials. My handle is @MELDBusiness. And just in case you're wondering, the groovy music for this podcast was created by Just Here on SoundCloud. I'd also be super grateful if you took a moment to rate and review this podcast so more amazing women like you can experience the power of content. And if you're like, hell Mel, stop talking, I'm ready to work with you now, here's how we can work some powerful content magic together. Firstly, come and join the Content Effect, my membership inspiring women with service-based businesses to ditch the content chaos and start creating stand-out content that gets you noticed and makes sales. You can join us by using the link in the show notes or just Google the Content Effect. The second way we can work together is via my one-on-one packages. We can create a sustainable content strategy or start to build out your client journey. It's up to you. Pop on over to meldbusinessservices.com.au/services to find out more. Until next time, have a beautiful week and embrace the power of your content.